Doctor Who will soon be returning to our screens, with Jodie Whittaker taking over as the 13th Doctor. The casting of a female Doctor is probably the single biggest thing to happen to the show since the first regeneration, way back in 1966. So, what better time to look back at each of the Doctor's eras so far? Join me for the trip of a lifetime as I recap the very best of each era, revealing some of my favourite Doctor episodes and moments along the way. In contrast to the 4th Doctor's colossal 7-year tenure, the 5th Doctor's era goes back to the standard pattern of 3 years, or 3 seasons. It's an interesting era, to say the least. Not one of my absolute favourites, but there's still lots to enjoy. At the time of his casting, Peter Davison was the youngest actor to have played the role of the Doctor. Though his outfit is questionable, Davison himself must be credited for giving the Doctor a slightly more human touch in his approach to the role, and also for making the character more calm and collected, compared to Tom Baker's radically alien portrayal. In many ways, the 5th Doctor foregrounds elements that will inspire the new series Doctors, such as David Tennant's very grounded, emotional 10th Doctor. One of the best and worst things about this era is the 4-strong TARDIS team that starts it off in season 19. A problem best summed up as an overcrowded TARDIS. It was clearly a challenge for the writers to find something for the Doctor, Adric, Nyssa and Tegan to all do in each story, as well as any guest characters there to drive the plot forward. Having said that, this TARDIS team has grown on me over the years, and I sort of do like how there are 3 companions again, as it echoes the eras of the 1st and 2nd Doctors, and even to some extent the 3rd Doctor's era, as there's once again an ensemble cast. If anything, I think the writers are to blame for the overcrowded TARDIS problem, and I hear that this TARDIS team has fared much better in the Bigger Finish audios, though I'm yet to listen to one myself that features all 4 of them. There are also some audios, however, that feature just 1 or 2 of these companions along with the Doctor, to create a different dynamic. One that I'd recommend is Spare Parts, which, as well as detailing the genesis of the Cybermen, has a tight focus on the 5th Doctor and Nyssa's relationship. On TV, the overcrowded TARDIS problem was eventually solved by writing companions out of the show gradually. Adric was the first casualty, being killed off in Earthshock, the show's first proper companion death. It was a controversial move, but one that was nevertheless bold, shocking audiences at the time. Nyssa was the next to go, following the arrival of the alien Turlo and android Chameleon, 2 companions that I personally don't think quite worked. The one constant companion throughout this era is Tegan, who appears in practically every 5th Doctor story. It's nice to have a character who appears in all 3 seasons that's not the Doctor, for consistency if nothing else, and she's probably the 5th Doctor's most developed companion too, choosing to leave the TARDIS herself of her own accord, because of the high death count and resurrection of the Daleks. Like Adric's death, Tegan's voluntary departure is another unprecedented move in Doctor Who history, one that wouldn't be out of place at all in the new series. Having run for over 20 years, Doctor Who was still going strong. As well as relying on tried and tested techniques, the 5th Doctor's era is one that begins to stretch the show's format a bit more. From Adric's death to Tegan's exit, to the celery on Peter Davison's costume, there are some bold creative choices made here that will have a long-lasting impact on Doctor Who going forward. So, out of those I've seen so far, which are my favourite 5th Doctor stories? Castrovalva. This story takes the meaning of post-regeneration trauma to another level, putting the Doctor in a puzzle box of a city where it's not clear what's real and what's an illusion. Overall, a very innovative Doctor Who story. The Master also features, so what's not to love? Black Orchid. A story that I watched for the first time very recently and really enjoyed. It's a fun Sherlock Holmes-esque mystery with no science fiction elements other than the Doctor and his TARDIS. The very last pure historical story. The 5 Doctors. There's so much to enjoy in this 20th anniversary adventure. The 1st Doctor. Well, not really, but close enough. The 2nd Doctor. The 3rd. The 4th. Oh wait. But the 5th as well. And a whole host of returning companions and monsters. The plot's a bit bonkers, but that doesn't really matter, because this story is a tremendously fun celebration of Doctor Who. Resurrection of the Daleks. A very solid Dalek Davros story, with one of Doctor Who's highest death counts. Memorable moments include a game-changing cliffhanger and a groundbreaking ending as Tegan leaves the Doctor of her own accord. The Caves of Androzani. I do think this story is overrated, but it's still really great. The Fifth Doctor's swan song starts off like any other adventure, but quickly escalates into a dangerous race against time to find a cure for a deadly disease. There's a great villain in the form of Sharaz Jek, and the whole thing is directed beautifully by Graham Harper. A classic Doctor Who story. At first, I wasn't quite sure what to pick as my favourite Fifth Doctor moment. After rewatching some clips on YouTube, however, I've chosen the meeting between the Fifth Doctor and Davros in Resurrection of the Daleks. By giving the Doctor a gun and putting Davros at his mercy, it reverses the power dynamic between the two characters. It also outlines the central conflict between the Doctor and Davros very effectively. The Doctor ultimately decides that he is not Davros' executioner. He could never be, as he believes in showing compassion. For this reason, I think this is one of the show's best Dr. Davros scenes. What do you love about the Fifth Doctor's era? Post your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to join me next week as I look back at the Sixth Doctor's era.